What's up, everybody? Welcome to Southern Hood Blogs. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 things you should know about Florida. The number one thing you should know about Florida is that there is no infrastructure. What is infrastructure? Those are highways, utilities, and things that are put in place to facilitate transportation and other things that cities need. Let's take Lehigh Acres, for example, the area we're driving through right now in this video. With over 100,000 people, they have no city water. To give you a comparison, I live in Alabama on a hill outside of city limits, and I have city water. Lehigh Acres, with over 100,000 people, everybody is on well. These systems are expensive, and when they break, they are a nightmare. There is also no sewage. Everybody is on septic tanks. With a high water table in South Florida, these are endless nightmares unless you are having an unsightly hill on your front yard, usually in front of your house, where they put these septic tanks. Florida has failed horribly to install infrastructure for its communities, and places like Cape Coral, Lehigh Acres were originally frauds. They were real estate frauds where they were selling people wetlands. So initially these cities were meant to defraud buyers, and to this day you're still being defrauded because the price that you're paying does not reflect that you will have, as you see here on this property, a water filtration system. Notice that it's inside of a cage so nobody steals it. You can see all these houses have these tanks behind their house. That is a filtration system for the well water. So you're on septic and you have well water, and also you can expect somebody to steal these systems, being that crime is very high in many of these places. In comparison, I live in Alabama, the second poorest state in all categories, only second to Mississippi, and I am outside of city limits, like I said, up on a mountain, and we have city water. And we do have a septic tank, but here the elevation is very high and the sand is very good at drainage. So consider, if you're moving to Florida, that they've kind of put the furniture in the house before they put the roof on. The construction has been great in Florida. However, the infrastructure investments have not taken place, and that has made a horrible combination where you have all these people living in a place where there's absolutely no infrastructure. Also, there's no crisscrossing pattern. Many states like Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, they have a network, a spider web of highways in all directions. There's also very little highways in Florida. Only one highway for the East Coast, one highway for the West Coast, and Highway 4 that crosses the central part of the state. All the other roads are toll roads that you have to pay, and there are efforts to make other toll roads throughout the state, and the residents of those areas are fighting back due to the fact that there's a lot of environmental issues in Florida. The state has no infrastructure, and it has no plans to improve the infrastructure, and there's so many things getting in the way from an ecological point of view for there being infrastructure that it's unlikely Florida will actually get the infrastructure improvements that it needs as a state. In comparison, Alabama, being one of the poorest states in the country, has a spider web of interstates and secondary highways like 280 and Selma Highway that go all over the state. Really, Florida has horrible infrastructure, which has led to incredible traffic problems that have no relief in sight. Number two is there is no industry in Florida, probably because of the fact that there's not enough infrastructure. It has kept industry out of the state. For example, the Collier County metropolitan area, which is the Naples metropolitan area, has one company, Arthrex, that's really considered big enough to actually count as industry significantly. And the Lakeland area in Polk County does have some industry, mostly warehouses that are being built by large distribution companies. But overall, Florida has no industry. It has very little jobs in the industry sector, and it likely will not get these jobs. Lee County, where Fort Myers sits, was excited about getting their Hertz company have their world headquarters there. That lasted about 3 months. They built a giant structure, and then they burned their cars and closed their offices. And then that was the end of it. There's not a workforce, there's no infrastructure of highways that would make sense. there's pretty much nothing that would attract industry to the state of Florida. Many large industries like the auto industry have put their plants in Alabama, in Georgia, in South Carolina, outside of massive hurricane landfall areas where they can build their buildings without too many regulations, without too many hassles, and there are less natural disasters for them to worry about, where they have access to a labor force that's more affordable. Florida definitely isn't going to get industry anytime soon. Anytime an effort is made to get infrastructure or to put in industry, people who live in golf courses start to complain about it, and sure enough, they put an end to it. Number 3, the base of the economy. The economy in Florida is based off of tourism. Tourism is very unreliable. May it be a virus, may it be a red tide, or a hurricane, the tourism can disappear and your bills, mortgage, rent, car payments, and other expenses will not. For the most part, tourists only go to Florida during the winter when the unbearable humidity is gone and when it is colder up north. In this time period, there are jobs and there are work and there's things to do. However, in the summer, the tourists go away with their money, and your mortgage, your rent, your bills do not go away. The dependency on an economy that is unreliable and transient has made being a full-time resident of Florida unpredictable, when you will have income and when you won't. Basically, it's either feast or famine, usually famine. We're now in the streets of Fort Myers, Florida. And by the way, if you're from Florida, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying the truth. You know these things are true. We don't want to lie to people. If they're moving to Florida, we want them to know the truth about the state. It's a great place to retire if you're wealthy. It's a horrible place to live if you're a working class person. We're not trying to talk crap about Florida. We're just telling people the truth. So if they move to Florida, there's no surprises. I moved to Alabama, and nobody in Alabama is doing a good job of telling the truth about this place, the good and the bad. And I hope that I can be able to help people who are considering this state just like I'm able to help people considering Florida. I'm out here putting myself in an uncomfortable situation economically, not knowing what my future will hold in this new state. I'm doing this, but I'm doing it so I can help other people who are doing the same thing. I'm doing the best that I can, not only to improve my life, but also to improve the life of other people. So don't look at this video as me going on a rant about how horrible Florida is. Look at this video as I'm helping people with information that they're not getting, because number 4 on the list is bad realtors. Not just bad, horrible realtors. These realtors' wives want to drive around in Jaguars, and guess who's going to pay for it? You are. Their kids are crying and they want brand new toys, and guess who's going to pay for them? You are. These are desperate, cutthroat criminals. A lot of them are YouTubers, and they have nothing but amazing things to say about the horrible, crappy towns they live in, where they should be pointing out the pros and the cons. Of course, they can hide behind a law. There's actually a law in place, both in Florida and Alabama, and probably in a lot of other states. It's a discrimination law that is meant to protect people in neighborhoods from being discriminated by realtors. Well, the reality is that realtors hide behind this law, and they use it as a cover story for, we can't tell you anything about the neighborhood because it's against the law. And this is a horrible law. It had really good intentions, but the application is that now realtors, well, they're a bunch of crooks anyway, so they weren't going to tell you the truth regardless. But now they have this blanket to hide underneath. Well, realtors don't have to tell you anything about the neighborhood. That is negative. They're not allowed to. It's against their license. Just for fun, I like to find houses in horrible neighborhoods and call the realtors and ask them, hey, can you tell me something about the neighborhood? And I love to hear the reaction they have. Some of them will even hang up on you. That's how bad, they're really scared to lose their license over this. It's really a conflict of interest that they're YouTubers promoting Florida, but then they're also realtors. That's not somebody I would want to trust. And here's the other thing. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a high school dropout. I have to constantly deal with other YouTubers, mostly realtors, actually all of them are realtors, who are constantly stealing my video concepts. They should have some type of unique characteristics. They should have some type of personal taste, personal creativity. They don't have that. They have to find a YouTuber who's a high school dropout and steal his ideas because they don't have any personal creative abilities. They're just the scum of the earth, basically. I'm not saying all realtors in Florida are that way, but so many of them are crooked. Let me give you an example of something that realtors are doing in Florida. you're a stupid home buyer. You have $10,000. Matter of fact, you have $6,000, and you think that's a down payment for a house. So the house is worth $250,000. Well, they give you, between the conjunction of the builder and the realtor, they give you a cash kickback that you can use as a down payment. But hold on, that $250,000 house, since they're giving you a kickback, now you're not going to buy it for $250,000. Now you're going to buy it for $340,000 or $350,000. So now they're defrauding the bank out of $100,000. So they're selling you a house at $100,000 over what it's worth, because they have a buyer who is willing to sign papers to buy a house but doesn't have a down payment. They give the down payment, so now they make their larger commission, they make their larger sale, all at the expense of the bank that they're defrauding, with a buyer who likely will not be able to keep up the property and will eventually end up in foreclosure, because if they didn't have the discipline to come up with a down payment, they sure as crap don't have the discipline to make a mortgage payment and to keep up a property, which will usually end up in foreclosure. So in conjunction between realtors and builders, they're defrauding banks with stupid buyers who don't have a down payment. And these are the ones that advertise things like, you're going to pay exactly what you pay for rent as a mortgage, except for a rent, you don't sign a 30-year contract. A rent, if you don't pay for it, it doesn't go into foreclosure. A rent, if the air conditioner breaks, you call the landlord, and he has to come up with $7,000, not you. These realtors are crooked, and unfortunately too many people are falling victim. I will give you guys this little bit of advice. If you need private consulting, you can pay me and I'll privately consult you, my personal opinion, and it's nothing more than that. It's my personal opinion. So if you're buying a house in Florida and you need a second opinion, get to me. And one way you can reach out to me is you can make a donation through the homepage. When you make a donation through the homepage, then you can send me an email with your contact information if you need a second opinion. I've had so many people reach out to me and say, Jose, I'll pay you, please help me. I don't trust this realtor, and it's kind of become a thing. So it's not something that I try to make happen. It's just something that worked out because so many people need this help. So if you need this help, I'll be glad to help you. You may not like my opinion on some of these things, but if you have the right income, you just need to find the right place. I'll take care of you, and you can't sue me because it's my personal opinion. You can't take away my real estate license because I don't have a real estate license. You're just paying for my personal opinion. Okay, that commercial's done. Number 5 is real estate trends. Yes, the trends of real estate is something you need to understand. Since 2016, South Florida has had no growth or insignificant changes in real estate prices. That's Miami, that's Broward, that's Collier County, Lee County. I think Cape Coral was the last place that was trending upward, and it finally just stalled out as of September 2020. So you need to be really careful with this. You're not going to make any appreciation. Now, I've been telling you guys this for like over a year now, but now we're looking at the results from Zillow, and this is starting to show statistically that, again, Jose told you something that was right, which is do not buy a house in South Florida right now. There are other parts of Florida like Sebring, like Spring Hill, and around the Orlando area that are still seeing appreciation. Average listing prices are going up in these areas. Some areas, the average listing price is kind of stalled out. There's no economical growth. There's no appreciation. So if you're buying a property in the southern region of Florida, you need to know this is a luxury. This is not a necessity. If your house is in a place where it's needed, it will grow in value. It will appreciate. If you're buying a house in a place that's a luxury, just like cars, anything that's a luxury, that's not essential, there's no profit in that. Usually there can be, but there isn't a guaranteed profit from appreciation. Definitely not anymore. Now we're driving, I believe we're driving through Sarasota. If anybody knows, comment on the video where we're driving through. I think this is Sarasota. I want to see how much you guys know Florida. One really easy way to figure this out is to go to Zillow.com, and they have an area that tells you the market temperature, and it shows you a graph showing whether an area is stalled out. It shows you the average listing price for properties year after year. It's really easy to look this up. Just write the name of the city on Zillow, and you look at their market temperature, and it'll give you a graph, and you'll see if the market has, you'll see a graph. They'll show you if the market's been flat for 5 or 6 years. That is a horrible trend, and it's happening right now in South Florida, and Jose's been telling you about it. Hope you guys were listening. Number 6 is contractors. Yes, just like the realtors, contractors are also a bunch of crooks for the most part in Florida. You know, I had to do this video because I have one subscriber who keeps coming onto the channel and telling me, Jose, you have to warn people about these things, in particular realtors. So this video is actually like a promise that I made to one of my subscribers that I would eventually make a video telling people these warnings about Florida, especially realtors. He's very, I guess he got burned or something happened. He has some type of experience and he wants me to get people to know that I have to get the word out about these contractors and realtors. Contractors can be just as crooked as realtors. One of the things that I notice in Florida is what is called locking you in. And this happens specifically, I mean, it happens all the time, but right after Hurricane Irma, I saw this more than ever, especially roofing contractors and all types of contractors when the construction of homes and all that. They would, they come out to your property and say, okay, your roof got damaged by Hurricane Irma. We'll do your roof for this price. You sign a contract. They deliver the materials, and guess what? 1 year later, they still haven't put your roof on. The materials are still sitting on your driveway. It's called locking you in. It means they're not really ready to take care of you right now. Okay, they don't have the labor force to take care of you, but now they have a contract that you can't get out of, and you bought materials that are sitting on your driveway, and they will eventually get to you. And in the process, maybe that roof damage will cause more interior damage to your house, and then that will make your bill even bigger. But you have a contract that you can't get out of with these people. People, I kid you not, since Hurricane Irma, I have helped at least 7 customers who told me, Jose, these materials have been on my driveway for about a year now. They locked them in. They took their down payment, took their money, brought the materials, and for a very long time, they did not get to these people. And these contractors, this is just one of the many schemes that these dirty contractors run. I'm not saying that there aren't good contractors out there, but I'm saying that there's so many of them that are shameful that people need to know about these practices. I had 2 customers now I had a junk removal business in Florida. I had 2 customers that paid me to haul away new materials from their driveway because they just gave up on the contractor, lost their money. Maybe they put a lien on their house. I don't know how it ended, but I had 2 people who just paid me to haul away the materials. So you know what? I don't know where this is going to end, but I can't have this crap on my driveway. All right, I hope I'm not losing you guys. I'm just speaking the truth. Again, I'm just being honest. Honesty has its place. When you're making important decisions in your life, you need honesty. And there's so many people out there that aren't being honest. And that goes, and that doesn't just go for Florida. I mean, I'm here in Alabama. I had a guy that quoted me $3,000 to do a job that another guy came and did for $450. And the first guy lied to me because he said that we had to take down the whole entire ceiling. There's no way to patch it up. The other guy patched it up without taking down the whole ceiling, and you could not tell at all. So he was trying to bubble the job he was trying to blow it up into a bigger package than what it really was to charge me more money. So just know that it's not just in Florida, it's everywhere that you have to watch out for contractors. It is what it is. I'm just letting you guys know in Florida they are particularly crooked. One thing that I did here in Alabama that I learned in Florida was I told my contractor, like the guy that did my roof, I told him, when you deliver the materials, I'll pay you for the materials. When you are 50% done with the job, I'll give you 50% of the money. When you're 75% of the job, I'll give you 75% of the money. When you're 100% done with the job, you'll have 100% of the money. I'm not going to owe you money. You're not going to owe me labor. You know, we're not going to have an imbalance. So that's one way. If you're doing a $100,000 project with a contractor, when he's done 10% of the work, he should have 10% of the money. So you establish that from the beginning. You tell the contractor, hey, if materials are $40,000, when materials are sitting on my driveway, you'll have $40,000. And that way, the contractor never gets money up front. If the contractor needs money up front, maybe you shouldn't even trust the guy. So I've had contractors who have accepted that. Most contractors here in Alabama, when I did all the things in my house, they all accepted it. And I told them just like that. I said, okay, when you're 50% done with the job, you'll have 50% of the money. That's the way we did it, and that's the way we worked out. If somebody's asking you for money up front, probably a red flag. And if they operate that way and you ask them to operate that the way you're asking, they shouldn't have a problem. They understand you want their job done and you're just trying not to get burned. So watch out for those contractors who take money up front but offer nothing. And if they do, step by step, break it down. If it's a $100,000 transaction, break it down into four $25,000 transactions so that if you're ever out, you're not out on the whole amount. I do that, and it's worked great for me. I learned that in Florida, and actually, my contractors here in Alabama, they're like, wow, dude, is it really that bad in Florida that you learned how to do this? I'm like, yeah, it's really that bad. So it's worse in Florida than Alabama, and I can tell you that because the reaction I got out of my contractors was like, wow, where are you coming from that you pick this up? I'm like, yeah, it's like that. They couldn't believe it, but it is like that. So if you're coming from Wisconsin or Alabama or some small little town up north where everything's pretty, it ain't pretty here in Florida. These guys are a bunch of crooks. You need to be careful. You need to have steps in place to prevent being defrauded. Number 7 is regulations. Florida has a lot of regulations, and if you do not know these regulations, you can really set yourself up for economical failure. You literally need a permit and an inspection to fart in Florida. I'm going to have to summarize this because this is a really elaborate topic. But basically, if you're building something in Florida, there's a lot of regulations. There's not just building regulations, there's flood zone regulation, and then there's wind zone regulation. And these vary from place to place. You will need to find out what the flood zone and wind zone regulations are before you enter any project, because it can be a whole lot more complicated than you imagine. There are states like here in Alabama where you don't have to pull permits. You can build an entire house and register it later. In Florida, if you are changing a window, you need to have the right window put in. I've seen people spend $20,000 doing a project and have the county come in and say, did you pull a permit? You have to get rid of that. Oh, let's just pull a permit now. No, you use a material that's not up to the wind zone or up to the flood zone requirement. So now you have to tear this whole thing out. And they don't care if you spent $20,000 or $100,000, whatever money you spent doing this project. If you do not comply with the regulations, they will make you tear it down, and they'll fine you if you don't. And if you think you're not going to get caught, your neighbors will call the county on you while you're doing your project if they know the regulations. So if you think you're not going to get caught, you are seriously mistaken. Everything that you build in Florida has to be up to wind zone, flood zone regulations. And if you think you're smart and you're going to get away with it, you're going to have some serious consequences in the future. If you ever go to sell the property, your realtors are not dumb. The buyers are not dumb, and the inspectors are not dumb. So when you go to sell the property, you may not even be able to sell the property because the inspectors, the banks, the realtors, all these people, the buyer, they're going to say, hold on, we're not going to buy this property until you take care of this problem. So if you do upgrades and improvements to the property without complying to those regulations, you will regret it in the future. I guarantee it. Again, here in Alabama, where I am now, you can build an entire house and then register it once you're done. In Florida, in the county that I was in Naples, to install a water heater, you need 2 permits. You need an electrical permit and a plumbing permit, and you need 2 inspections, electrical and plumbing. It takes 2 inspections, 2 permits to change a water heater. Some states you can build an entire house and not have to have a single inspection. In Florida, you will have to pull permits and inspections on things that you wouldn't even imagine. And if you think you're going to get away without it, you'll soon find out you're wrong. If you guys like this topic, we can make another entire video on this topic, but I just got to summarize these points. Let's keep moving. Number 8 is schools. This is a warning for poor people putting their kids in A+ schools. This is not a warning for if you have money, you're okay. This doesn't include you. But if you're a poor person, and I've had people call me and say, say I'm poor, but I'm going to move to I'm going to pay more money and more rent so I can have my poor kids go to a rich school. You are making the mistake of a lifetime. Do not put your poor kids in these rich A+ schools. You might think you're doing them a good thing. You are doing them a horrible thing. What these schools do in Florida, and they did it to me, that's why I'm a high school dropout, like I mentioned in this video. Not a dropout, I'm a high school kickout. I never wanted to leave the school. The school wanted me to leave them, and they found a way to get rid of me. Even when I wasn't doing anything bad, it was a hunt to get rid of me because I had bad grades, because I had problems at home. I wasn't able to get good grades. So even though I didn't have disciplinary trouble, they created disciplinary trouble. They exaggerated situations. Because what these A+ schools do is that if a student is a C student, they expel them and kick them out of that school to keep their school in A school. So what they do is the teachers, they're hunting for D and F and C students, and they are kicking them out And these are usually kids that they're trying the best they can, but they have to work a part-time job or something because their parents are sick. That was my case. So this isn't a warning for rich people. This is a warning for poor people that are going through hard times. Don't put your poor kids in a rich school, because if they're not A plus kids, believe me, they want to stay in A school, and they're not going to let your kid bring down their average. So they're not going to try to help your kid improve their grade. They're just going to kick your kid out of their school so your kid doesn't lower their grades, because again, it's all about keeping up an A plus school. You know, it's all about appearing. It's not about whether it's good or not. It's about appearing to be good, because those A-plus schools affect real estate prices, and realtors want to make a little bit of money. Everybody in the community wants to get their hands in that pot, and they're not going to let your stupid C-class child ruin their $50,000 Jaguar purchase. Sorry if I have to just summarize that and make it nice and simple, but this video is already long enough as is. Number 9. Do not think that you're insured. If you buy a house and a hurricane comes and destroys your house and you think, oh, I'm insured. A lot of my customers, their insurance was just like $1,000 or $2,000. Like, they know what these quotes are going to be to repair your roof, and it's just under that. Like, let's say your roof is, I don't really know how this works, but I had it happen to a few of my customers. They're like, Jose, I was quoted $36,000 to repair my roof, and my insurance will only cover if it's like $34,000. So like for a $2,000 or $3,000 difference or something, it's kind of like the contractors are already in it with the insurance companies, and the insurance companies know exactly where to draw the line to make sure that, oh, you as a customer, you think it's going to be enough insurance. If you break your left foot, they only cover your right, kind of thing. So if you think you're insured in Florida with hurricanes and stuff, you're not really insured. So if you were, I've had so many customers, they're like, I thought I was insured. I thought, I look at my policy and, well, you look really carefully at that policy. You didn't look at it very carefully. So don't think you're going to be insured, especially with hurricanes and stuff like that. There's no way these insurance companies are going to lose money on you. So just know that. Read the fine print. And matter of fact, just assume you're not insured, because I had so many customers where their insurance, they had to pay out of pocket. It's just their insurance just wouldn't cover over really small technicalities of, okay, your quote was $36,000. Oh, we only covered $35,000, so we can't do it. Or something like, I don't know how the math works out, but I had a few customers tell me something along those lines of it was almost enough to be covered by the insurance, but then it quite wasn't. So just know that. And if you have insurance and a mortgage, that insurance, you're just giving money to the banker's friend, the insurance guy. That's not really covering anything. That's not like, oh, you're insured. No, you're insured because you have a mortgage and they want to drain even more money out of you. So don't assume that don't assume that. And every insurance company and policy isn't the same, but it did happen to a few of my customers, and I want to pass the warning on to you. Number 10, are people happy? Specifically, the people living, they're retired, they're wealthy. Are these people happy? I always told myself, man, if I had a $500,000 house in a gated community, in a boat, and 2 cars in the garage that were brand new, I would be the happiest, nicest guy in the world. Somehow, these people are so miserable, and I'm not the only one making that observation. I've had at least 5 to 10 comments in the last month, let's say, of people telling me, hey, you would think that these people living in these gated communities, driving these nice cars with these great retirements, that they would be happy, vibrant, just greatly thankful people, but they are the most miserable people you're ever going to meet. And I'm not the one making this observation. I'm kind of just taking this from what my subscribers are saying. And I have noticed it myself. You would think you're in Florida, you're retired, you're not working anymore. You would think these are the happiest people in the world, but they're not. They're so miserable. They flick you off in traffic. They're impatient. They're rude as crap. I've had 2 people just today, somebody who mentioned they moved to Florida from Mississippi to South Florida in particular, and they can't believe how rude people are in Florida and how uncomfortable the people are making this person feel unwelcome, and it's just horrible. I'm in Alabama, and I have had people here tell me specifically, hey, go out of their way to tell me, welcome to Alabama. And I guess that's something that isn't really going to happen. When you move to South Florida, it's not, hey, welcome to South Florida. It's, hey, how can I take your money in South Florida? I have seen a few things myself that have just been incredible. I couldn't tell you all the stories for the sake of time, but I have seen things in my own time regarding Florida that have just been like, wow, are you kidding me? Like, Man, you would think somebody that lives on a house that's directly on the beach would not try to hassle a working class person for $20 off a bill, but they will, and they'll do it in a rude way. You would think that a guy who's worth into the hundreds of millions of dollars would not steal the unemployment benefit of an 18-year-old who just got married and got laid off during a recession. You wouldn't think that a guy that's worth $100 million needs to steal the unemployment benefit of a young person during a recession who has nothing, who just got married. But these people, a lot of them acquire their wealth by stealing and by fraud, and well, I guess they got what they wanted, and I don't know if it's made them happy, but it doesn't seem like all the money in the world has made these people happy. So if you're moving to South Florida and you see all these wealthy people, don't assume they earned it, honestly. I mean, when you look at all these frauds and scams that are going around in the state of Florida, you can only wonder how these people that are making themselves wealthy off the suffering and pain of other people, how they could be happy. They're not. They're miserable, they're angry, and they're probably not even happy with themselves. So just because a lot of these people have acquired wealth, when you see how they acquire their wealth, by making other people struggle and by bringing pain and suffering to other people, maybe you can understand why there's so many angry, unhappy, and bitter people in Southwest Florida. I don't know what it is. You would think, I mean, here in Alabama, it's like so poor here where I live in some places, and these are the happiest people you're going to find. They wave at you, they say hello, they talk to you. So happiness and wealth do not equate, and I hope you guys can understand that. Don't expect that beaches are going to make you happy. It's what your personal outlook is.